Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Climb, the Confident Leader podcast. I'm your host, Rahul Sharma, where I bring stories of leaders moving from invisible to becoming an influencer. Today, I have a privilege to be with a friend of mine who has over 25 years of experience navigating corporate complexities as both a C-level leader and a trusted advisor. She helps executives harness their personal power while mastering the sophisticated leadership capabilities and political savvy needed to advance and thrive in senior roles. Through her executive advisory firm, she equips leaders with the sophisticated interpersonal and strategic skills that aren't taught in the traditional MBA or leadership development program. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hand together for one and only Courtney Intersimone for our Climb episode. Courtney, welcome to Climb Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm really happy to be here. And thank you for that very generous introduction, Rahul.
You
It
are
was
very
wonderful.
welcome. I think the political aspect, corporate politics, is something that many people miss. And they underestimate the importance of navigating through corporate politics. So I'm very hopeful that your customers, your clients who are coming to you, they will understand the nitty gritties of navigating that political aspects and will be doing a great job. So thank you for doing it.
You're
Um,
welcome.
on that note, I would want listeners to know more about you. So please share with us about your leadership journey, what you did, and how you came to the level where you are today.
Sure, I'd love to. So let's see. In short, I started out, and I will keep this brief. Don't worry. But I started out believing that I was going to be a psychologist, a practicing therapist of some kind or another. And so, with that as a plan, back in my university days, I majored in psychology and I went on to get a master's degree in counseling psychology. And during the course of my graduate work, I found myself having a practicum experience in an on site uh, outplacement, like career counseling service that was then run at a financial institution that is now known as JP Morgan Chase. Back then it was something else. But in doing that, I really enjoyed the intersection of, leveraging my counseling and advisory skill set to help individuals in the world of work to be as effective as they can and to really, enjoy what they're doing and feel aligned, with their professional lives. But I was quite young and I felt it was important that I actually get a lived experience myself, working within the corporate context before I was going to be, full-time advising and counseling people on their career paths. And so with that in mind, I took a role quite intentionally within the human resources field, but within a financial services firm. And I share this because honestly, I did not have a plan particularly to end up in financial services. In fact, if you had told me I'd be working on Wall Street, I would have laughed. I'm the child of educators. The world of business was sort of like the furthest thing from my mind. I also didn't anticipate that initial role that I took would flourish into a 26-year career
Wow.
within the financial services industry. I thought, well, I'll just get a few years of experience
Mhm.
and return to the, coaching and advisory work. And that didn't happen then, for a number of reasons, but largely because I was quite fortunate to continue to get um, opportunities to do exciting and interesting work. I really enjoyed my colleagues. I found that I really loved working within a large corporate enterprise. Prior to that, I didn't anticipate that was something that I enjoyed as much as I did. But there was always something new and exciting going on, and I had ample opportunity from my perch within the organization to be in, it's not therapy, obviously, but to be in one-on-one advisory kind of roles with really with employees at all levels within the organization. Although I spent a good amount of time and had the opportunity to work with senior level and C-suite executives from a very early stage in my career. And that was certainly exhilarating and also, gave me for want of a better term, like a privileged perspective, meaning I had the privilege of seeing how things really operate at the most senior levels of the organization probably pretty early on. And so I spent a good chunk of time, working as a human resources business partner, supporting certain business segments. I won't bore you with all of that now. And then I moved into building a nascent talent management sort of center of expertise at our organization. And then we found ourselves in a merger of equals with an equal size financial institutions. And as part of that, I was co-leading the integration efforts from a talent perspective, particularly looking at how we were going to combine and select for the top 3 layers of leadership at the new larger organization. And that was a very, not sure if this is exactly the right word, but I would say an extremely formative event in my career because it's a time of high uh, excitement, enthusiasm, but also stress for a good number of people as to who's going to sort of be the winners and losers in that. And again, having a front row seat to that, not only a seat, but actually playing a key role in architecting that integration was extremely was a fantastic growth experience for me. Let's put it that way. And then I went on to lead executive development for the combined firm, and also ultimately before I left. Running basically, I was the chief talent officer for the organization, responsible for all things, including talent acquisition. And this is for a 50,000, what was then a 50,000 employee global, financial services firm. Um, so managing talent acquisition, managing all leadership development activities, all learning and development activities, and also, spearheading our approach to any kind of, culture related initiatives and organizational design consulting and so on and so forth. So, um, yeah, that was the journey, the backstory of the journey, and that early seed of wanting to work as a coach, as an advisor in a one-on-one, more of a one-on-one kind of setting, never really left me all those years. And I reached a point where I said, this has been fantastic, these 26 years, and I'm so glad for the experiences that I've had because I think that's going to enable me to help so many more people than I would have been able to without the perspective I gained, including, as you mentioned in my intro, by the time I left, I was leading a, 200-person global team myself, reporting directly to the chief people officer for the firm. And so not only have I been advising executive leaders, but I have been in the role myself, and I understand the realities, the pressures, and the opportunities that come with that. But I finally made the decision that now was the time that I was going to turn into entrepreneurialism and start my own business. The thing is, while I had ample opportunity on the inside to advise and assist individual leaders with their own career growth and development and their leadership development, as anyone who's led a large function inside an organization knows that you don't necessarily get to focus singularly on your that core work. A lot of your role is also about leading a function. And I loved that, but there was insufficient for my desires, insufficient time and focus that I could spend on what I was most passionate about. And that's when, I said, look, it's now or never. And I want to make that more, core to what I'm doing and how I'm spending my energy and time. And so let's see, actually 4 years ago now, I can't believe how time is flying. Yeah, 4 years ago, I started my private practice and haven't looked back. but
Very good.
it's all been a great journey. Yeah.
Wow. So definitely, all that you have just shared, it seems like a fairy tale, but I'm sure it would be a roller coaster ride because it was not everything
Eh,
was not uh, put
perfect
on
at
a
all
platter.
times.
Yes, so you had your own fair share of challenges. You had own fair share of obstacles, but the way you navigated through it and you came out as a winner and
Yeah.
actually doing what you love is something very unique because
Yeah.
not everyone gets that opportunity to
Yes.
do what they love. So
Yes.
God has
Yes.
been kind and
Yes.
giving you that opportunity.
Agreed.
One thing coming to my mind, as you mentioned, Courtney, that you yourself was leading 200 people team. You were responsible for designing the program, leadership development program for senior leaders. One of the thing I have noticed that a lot of senior executives they have this misconception about the failure and they are not everyone, I would not say, I don't want to generalize, but not everyone is accepting that failure
Is a part of the journey.
is a part of the journey. So
Yeah.
how you advise the leaders to reframe that thought process,
Yeah, for
any
sure.
inputs?
Yeah. A few different things I want to touch on here. I mean, one of the things that I had the opportunity to take note of and to see very directly and personally throughout that 26-year tenure at that firm. I mean, first of all, I had my own failures and we can get into that, but I watched as many um executives who had achieved, sort of like the highest levels of stature in terms of their role at the organization. The people who were quite literally in the C-suite, i.e., they reported into the CEO of the organization. Highly esteemed, lots of accomplishments. They obviously, worked hard to attain that stature in the organization. Where I'm going with this is I saw several examples of people, even at that level, take a fall, however you want to define that. And I also watched those same people recover and rebuild after that fall. Now, in some cases, that happened within the same organization. In other words, the executive, fell out of favor for one reason or another and was able to rebuild their brand and sort of quietly keep their head down, and look for opportunities to sort of rise again, if you will, within the same structure. And I've seen that happen. Probably more frequently, I saw people who came to the end of their again, I was gonna say the end of the rainbow. That doesn't sound very good, but you know, something imploded for them at the organization that we were at. And they went through a period of deep questioning and, even lack of confidence about, well, can I really turn this around? Who then went on to land other opportunities and rebuild bigger and stronger. My point about raising all this is that when you actually see this happening to real people who you've seen get all the adulation, all the recognition, they seem untouchable. When you see up close and personal, even people who've already attained so much suffer some kind of fall and rebuild, what I learned from all of that is that no one is immune to this
Mm,
and that it is indeed possible to rebuild.
mm.
And that part of what's really important is the decision that you choose to make in your own mind. And maybe it doesn't come right away, and that's okay. You can have your period of, doubt,
Yeah.
grieving, right? But you have to make the decision that says, okay, what happened happened. But it doesn't need to define where I'm going in the future. So what can I learn from it? What am I going to do differently? But do I want to get back in the game, as it were, or not? And if so, I'm going to make the assumption that it is possible to do that. I think it starts with that assumption, because if you sit there and say, "Well, you know, I fell off the ladder or something,"
Hmm.
and therefore, because of that fact, I can never get back up again, well, then you won't. But
Yeah.
if you decide to say, okay, that was a bruising experience, wished it had been different, feels like it was unfair, whatever the litany of complaints might be, if you say, well, that was then, but this is now, and what do I want to build next? And you put your energy and actions. I mean, of course, it's not about just sitting in your room and, saying, oh, everything's going to work out. You have to take action in the real world, but that the possibility that you can, rebuild even better, even stronger absolutely exists and is real. And, for me, keeping those exemplar scenarios top of mind is also useful. It's like, well, if someone else could do it, I can too. Yeah, and I'm happy to go into any
Sure,
particular
sure.
example, but there's plenty of those. There was something else I want to say, but now I'm afraid it's escaping me. Your question about this again was what? I want to make sure I'm answering your full.
No, so you did. So what I'm getting out of it is, at a C level or a senior level, no one is immune, or that they will not have a failure. They will have failures, and it is all about how you uh, what you choose to do next at that moment really defines the future. You
Right.
can choose to go in a shallow space. You can choose not to do that thing again, but you can choose to be the Kobe Bryant of the world or the Michael Jordan of the world, who, in spite of those failures they had early in their life, still became the players that they became. You still have that
Yeah,
decision is in your hand.
yeah, and just to build on what you're saying, to amplify, it's I often say to myself, but certainly to my clients, what are you making this mean?
Mm.
It's all about the meaning we ascribe to certain events. So, okay, Courtney, what does that mean? Well, if you got laid off, I deal with a lot of executives who, arguably for no fault of their own, but they get caught up in some kind of a layoff. It's common. It happens to everyone at some point. What are they making it mean, though, that they were laid off? If they choose to say, well, I guess someone finally found out that I'm not good enough, or the fact that I got caught up in a layoff must mean that I am, I've got some sort of mark against me that now, quote, everyone out there is going to question whether I have value to bring. That's one way to define the meaning of it. Another way is to say, hey, this is not pleasant. It's not fun. I wish this didn't happen, but it happens to everybody. It doesn't have anything to do with what's coming next for me. And, everything that I learned and built over the N number of years that I was with that firm still stands, even though there's no longer a fit for me to be there. Those are two very different ways of interpreting and looking at the same situation. Or, yeah, they let me go, not because I'm a terrible failure in their eyes, but someone had to go, and maybe I was the most expensive one, and it just that's where the way the cookie crumbles, as we say, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
But again, you don't have to make any one event define your whole future. I mean, the other thing I always love to tell people to consider adopting as a frame of mind is, particularly when they suffer a layoff or something like that, is you get to decide that this is the best thing that could have happened to you. Now, of course, in the immediate wash of this news, it's difficult for someone to take that in and to truly embrace that. But I live my life by the belief that everything is happening for us, not to us. And
Mm.
yes, that requires a measure of faith in the unseen. And you might not appreciate in the moment why a certain thing is happening to you. But if you can orient yourself to the idea that there is good in this, that it's for your growth in some way, then you're more likely to find proof points,
Mhm.
right, in your environment that align with that premise. And that is going to support you so much more in terms of getting back on track to achieving your goals than you focusing on the negative possibility. Oh, this is evidence. The fact that I was laid off or whatnot is evidence that no one's going to want me and I'm old and cold, all
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. So
sure.
it's really around using the power of your own mind to decide where you're going, what meaning you're going to give to any circumstance, and thus where you're going to focus your attention, because that has a significant influence on then the actions you take and the next results that you generate for
Sure,
yourself.
sure. And as you were talking about this, a live example coming to my mind. So, not as a C level, but it's
Yeah,
the kids, my sixth and seventh graders. So, my son just recently got selected into his school basketball team.
that's great.
And my daughter also tried hard. She was not selected. So, she was very disappointed.
Uh-huh.
And as we all know that we cannot define the outcomes, the effort is only in our hand.
Yeah.
So she did not make the tryout. And yesterday night, there was a tryout for the recreation team. So the school team is more like a travel, and then this was a
Yes.
recreation.
Yeah. Yeah. Like an
And
intramural. Yeah.
correct. So I think we all, at least I believe that there is angel everywhere, and the God
Yes.
sends some angels if they
Yes.
want to make things happen. Yesterday, when I dropped my daughter for the tryout, the coach is around, and I see my son's team coach. And I happen to be a team parent, so I am a
Uh-huh.
communicator with all parents. So we have a bond,
Right.
and we just exchange notes. And I said, "Hey, just let me know your input if you are here
Yeah.
evaluating case."
Yeah.
And after the event, he told me that, man, your daughter is good. She needs to work on this, but she has a good grade. She's a good defender. And you know what? I'm going to recommend her for the travel team. And I was speechless.
That's amazing.
It was such a great feeling because
Yeah.
I know my daughter worked hard,
Yeah.
and she did not got the outcome that she was looking for. But the reason I'm bringing the story here is that you do not define the outcome, and that one outcome cannot define your entire life.
Exactly.
So my
Yes.
learning is, and what I shared with my daughter while she was going to school today, that you spend 2 days in that disappointment when you did
Yeah.
not go through your tryout. But if instead of that, you should just keep on working. You never know when you get the next opportunity. Now,
Yeah.
we don't know what will happen, whether she gets into travel team or not. But at least in my mind, I know that she's worth enough. She's good enough for travel. If this nothing happens, it's fine.
Yeah.
But the mindset that the outcomes do not define us,
Yes.
we need to have that kind of a mindset. I just thought
Absolutely.
I'll share. I know,
No, I love that. That's a perfect story. It's a perfect
yeah.
illustration of what we're talking about. Yeah.
Sure. And
Beautiful.
Courtney, when I was doing my research on you, you do a lot of emphasis on the mindset, strategy, and support. Something is just not one thing, but it is the conventional method that you use. So, why you think that it is the combination, like mindset, strategy, works together, and why it is so effective in recovery after failure?
Yeah. Mm, So I just want to make sure I'm getting the question right. So you're saying, why do I believe it's a combination of mindset and tactics, actions in the real world? Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go even bolder and say, you didn't say this, but some might say, oh, well, it's 50% mindset, 50% tactics. I would say it's at least 80% mindset, 20% tactics.
I second that.
Yeah, because most people, well, let me tone that down. A goodly number of us know what to do. Now, sometimes we don't, and that's fine. But there's so many resources out there that you can avail yourself of, and goodness knows, with the advances in AI, your access to information, including information about tactics, what to do to achieve A, B, or C, you can avail yourself of those pretty freely at any time with some level of ingenuity. The issue is less about understanding the tactic. The issue is more about why you do or do not execute on that tactic effectively, timely, right? And usually that piece, when there's some level of interference with the execution of a known tactic, that's where I know there's something in your mindset, your way of thinking about the action you're supposed to take that's getting in the way. So, for instance, to bring it back down to earth here, right? Most people, most professionals, certainly those who've been around enough to be mid-career, growing within their organizations and in the sort of hierarchy, if you will, people understand conceptually that it's a good idea to cultivate and build their professional network, aka networking. That word that's become almost like a dirty word, right? But many people don't make it a priority to, on a regular basis, attend to, with intention, the cultivation of relationships in that professional network or seeking ones. So then we have to get to, is it because you don't know how to do that? Or is the reason why you're not attending to that something else? Is it buried under a lot of understandable and real, but nonetheless excuses like, I don't have time to? Or is that really a cover for something deeper, which is, I don't really feel comfortable doing that. It feels very empty to me. It feels transaction. I don't want to be one of those people, right? What's your definition of what it means to network? And if you're holding a view that it is in some way superficial, or like you're just using someone, you don't really care, or it's just a pain in the neck, and who has time for this? Those are really mindset issues more than they are tactful issues. Again, for sure, there are some people who are like, yeah, I'm willing to expand my network, but can you give me some tips on, how to reach out to a new person that I don't know, kind of cold, to initiate a relationship? Can you help me develop some scripts on what I might say? All that. Yeah, that's legitimate. That's all tactics. Many of us need that help. But again, it's what's the willingness to actually go forward with that action. So, again, I'm sort of maybe going on too much about this example, but many people, again, just, or they'll say, I'm just not good at X, Y, and Z networking. I'm an introvert. I don't like going to some, big forum and pressing the flesh. I'm not a glad hander, all these things. And a lot of that is about the way they're thinking about how it has to work. So when I say to them, you know, well, okay, but do you have friends? Do you make friends relatively easily? Do you show care and concern for other people? Oh, yeah, I do that all the time. Do you have friends at work? Yeah. Okay. Well, what if you looked at this instead of it's this thing called networking? What if you looked at it as, hey, we're all having a common experience. We're in the same industry, probably facing similar challenges. I'd love to hear more about, what you're doing there. Here's something that we did that's similar. This is what I found worked for me. Maybe it works for you. Like, does that feel like networking? Could you possibly do that? What if you called it, making new friends? I mean, again, I'm being a little bit tongue in cheek here, but all by way of saying getting someone connected to both why they're investing time and energy in doing something and helping them to see that activity in a way that they can get aligned and comfortable with is a necessary predecessor to them then taking the action. And most of all of that pre-work is more about their mental frame of reference. Why is it worth my time to do this?
Sure.
How can I do it in a way that feels authentic to me? How can I do that in a way that is not transactional or, like I'm trying too hard to to, network or whatever. Once we can clear out that noise, then the person is freed up to go ahead and take the action, to reach out to someone new, to say, hey, I'm just checking in. How's it going with you this week? In terms of like maintaining a relationship or whatever. So does that answer your
Yeah,
question?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm listening is it's just not only the mindset, but yes, mindset plays a vital role
Yes.
in making things happen. And strategy, according to Courtney, it is 80% mindset, 20% tactic, and it is a combination. Is not only the tactic or only the mindset, is a combination that really makes things happen, specifically when you are doing the recovery from failure. So yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing I'll add in here that's, I guess you could argue, is a subset of mindset. I don't know if that distinction is important necessarily, but i- is things around identity. And what do I mean by that? Like, I'm not talking about identity politics. What I am talking about is any statement that says, I'm the kind of person who blank,
Mm,
or I'm just not the kind of person who does blank, or my people, and by that I mean like me and my family, my forebears, we just are not the type to do X. That's not something that's available to us. Da, da, da. And I cannot tell you how many times I want to respect the person's own view. I'm not saying they're lying or anything, but I do challenge them and say, well, hold on. Like, do you want to be a person who does X? You're so certain that you're going to define what's possible for you in this lifetime by saying, I am capable of doing or being A, B, or C. It's like people saying, oh, I'm just not good at politics,
mm,
without ever really exploring, well, what, politics, meaning within a workplace setting, what does politics really mean? What is your
mm,
definition of it? And, you know, again, what if you could be good at it?
mhm,
If you knew you could be good at it, would you then do it? And would you then be someone who could, show up in a way where you understand how to influence other people, again, with integrity and so forth? I just think these things are so important. And these are the kind of things that nobody's really talking about in business school,
mm,
for instance, and yet are so fundamental to opening doors of possibility of how you can show up
mm,
in your professional life and what is ultimately available to you. And so what I find is that most people are imposing their own glass ceilings on themselves
mm. Yeah.
more so than any external entity. And they do it in subtle ways that they're not always aware of by saying things like, oh, well, that's not really me.
Mm,
And no one's challenging it, right? They're not even challenging themselves. They just accept it as like, well, that's just not me. It's like, well, hold on a second. Do you want it to be you? Could it be you? What are some proof points that we can accumulate? Maybe it can be you.
mhm.
It's really up to what you decide.
Oh,
So anyway, I'm quite passionate about this.
no, I can sense that. So
Yeah,
that's uh that's a good problem to have.
yeah,
Passionate people keep going, but yes, I want to be considerate of your time and our
and
colleagues'
yours.
time as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So before we move to our rapid fire round, I wanted to give an opportunity to you and to listeners also who are excited to hear your views, who want to gain that self confidence, going through their journey,
yeah,
leadership journey.
yeah.
How can they work with you, and how can they know more about your programs?
Yeah, sure. The first thing I would recommend is that I people come follow me on or connect with me either way on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is my main sort of public interaction space, if you will. At present, I post consistently. I post daily, and I certainly endeavor to share tactics, strategies, and mindset tips that are usable, that are actionable on a daily basis. So, I would suggest people start there. You may want to read up on the posts that I've done. That's not a requirement, but hopefully there's things there that folks will find valuable that they can put into action right away. And send me a DM via LinkedIn, or you can reach out to me at Courtney Intersimone, and happy to schedule a no commitment call just to explore where someone's at, what they're looking to accomplish, and talk to them about how I might be able to be helpful with them. Right now, my main focus is working, with folks in one-on-one, very customizable, coaching engagements. That's why I like to have initial exploratory discussions with folks to understand what it is they're trying to achieve. And if I'm in a position to help them, I may not be, I'm not for everyone, and I don't pretend to be. But I love to meet new people and see where I can be helpful. So
Awesome.
that's what I would
We
say.
will we will include your website as well as link to your LinkedIn on our show notes, Courtney.
Great.
Uh,
Thank you.
I'm very hopeful that the C-suite leaders, senior leaders will learn and guide their teams with your wisdom. Working together is all part of the destiny, I believe. So if it
Yes.
happens to be, it's meant for you to work with your client, I think it will happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now, what we are doing or what we will do is we'll move to a rapid fire round, Courtney. There are five
Okay.
questions will be
Hope I'm
coming to
ready.
you. Yes.
Okay.
Um, be brief and do not take a lot of time in thinking because we
Okay.
want your answer just right away. Okay.
All right. We'll do it.
Okay. Uh, First one coming your way. A quotation you live by.
My goodness, a quotation I live by. Well, I know the put me on the spot. The person that I would refer to is oh my goodness, his name is right at the tip of my tongue. It's crazy. Let me come back to this one because this is
Okay.
really important, but I
No
have
worries.
it and it's escaping me in the moment.
That's fine. Indoors or outdoors for your ideal leadership retreat?
Indoors.
Okay. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning person.
What's one leadership skill you wish someone had taught you earlier?
One leadership skill I wish people had taught me earlier is how to navigate uh, difficult political waters.
Okay. What's one daily routine you never skip, no matter how hectic your day has been?
Well, right now, one daily routine is making sure that I post on LinkedIn,
Okay. All
no
right.
matter no matter what. Yeah.
Okay. If your career were a Netflix series, what would be the title of season one be?
If my career was a Netflix series, oh, good Lord, that's a tough question. And what would season one be, you're asking
Mhm.
me? Learning what makes people tick.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Learning what make people's
Tick.
make change. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. 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 I've always been fascinated by human behavior from very early days. I've got that quote, unless you're still on to the
We
next
can,
question.
yeah, we already have five questions I asked, but if you want,
Go
you
back
can
to that.
speak a quotation you live by.
Okay, this is a quote from Viktor Frankl. And if folks listening have not heard of Viktor Frankl, he's a psychiatrist who was in the Nazi concentration camps. He did survive. And he's really the founder of what's known as, existential, um, psychology. And the phrase is everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And I find that to be a tremendous guide. And it has really informed everything about how I operate in the world. And that I seek to remind other people you have choice in how you're to interpret events and also how you're going to respond to events.
Wow.
And it was that uh, thesis that enabled him to survive amidst some of the most horrific circumstances that you can find. So if he can do it, we can get through the day
Sure,
for
sure.
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So that was Courtney Intersimone for you, ladies and gentlemen. It has been pleasure to host her on our show. And before I let her go, it is now time for you to mention your comments, your biggest takeaway from the show. If you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us on Spotify, please put any comments. And I will share my learnings. There have been many golden nuggets that were dropped in by Courtney throughout the episode. The first one for me was no leader or no one is immune to failure.
No one.
Failure
Yeah.
will happen. It's all depends on how we choose or what we decide when we fail. The
Yeah.
next step that we decide when we fail really dictates your journey.
Yeah, for sure.
For anything to happen or for next steps or to become a better leader, it's just not strategy or it's not only the mindset. It is a blend. Mindset 80%, strategy 20%. It's strategy, tactic, whatever you may call, but this is
Yeah.
a blend. The last one, which I want to pick up, is as Courtney was talking about, the identity. So we need to be mindful of the identity we are giving to ourselves. You may be giving a fake identity. You may be giving a label to yourself which may not be true.
Right.
So be mindful of that. Don't label yourself. Challenge yourself. And that's what
Yes.
Courtney does to her clients.
Yes.
She challenge them to think differently, to act differently. So those are some of my learnings. Let's see if any of my learnings matches with yours. Please put in comments. And Courtney, once again, thank you for being on our show. It has been a pleasure. Wishing you good luck and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks so much, Rahul. It was a joy to be here. Take care.